Welcome back to my YouTube video series on how to beat 1-2 no limit hold'em for break even, losing, and inexperienced players. If you're just getting here and you haven't seen videos 1 or 2 or 3, I'm going to put a card right up here and that'll take you back to video number 1, and I will put the other episodes, the previous episodes, down in the video description below. Let's just get right into this video. Alright, so in this video we are going to talk about some important things that you need to be doing in your quest to become a poker wizard at the 1-2 level. And we're also going to talk about player types. So the first thing that I think is very important in mentioning, you're already putting some work in, you're potentially considering like playing to a set range, and you're learning about implied odds and all the other stuff that we talked about leading up to this, and hopefully you have a pretty good grasp of the other concepts. You can't really evolve as a player if you just sit there and like watch iPod and like, you know, you're like watching movies on your iPod and like reading the newspaper and having text conversations and Skype and whatever, FaceTime with your old lady, or you know, whatever people do. Like I think it's very important that while you're at the table, you need to be paying attention. And there's good reason for this. If you're trying to grind out like a win rate at 1-2, you're going to be folding a lot. You're going to have a lot of time on your hands that can be used to learn a whole lot about poker. So you don't want to like pass this opportunity up. This is 1-2 no limit hold'em. There's going to be lots of showdowns, so you have the opportunity to pay attention to who's limping what and who's raising what and what kind of hands are being shown down. And one way to try to really make this interesting is when you're watching these hands, what I like to do is try to put people on exact hands, like while I'm watching the hand happen. Like, you know, this dude raised under the gun and he's betting this flop and then he's checking turn and he's calling. Like, I'm trying to put him on exact cards. Like, what does this guy have? It can definitely be a very effective exercise to improving your hand reading skill by just doing this. So without even investing money, you can become better at poker just by merely sitting at the table and watching other people and what they do and why and how they do it. So definitely, as much as you can, you want to keep your focus on that game the whole time you're there. You're a machine. You're gathering information to use later. So the next suggestion I would like to make to all of you watching this video is when the action's coming to you and you're kind of waiting for it to be your turn, I'm just going to go through like what I do every time I'm at a table. So the first thing I'll do is like the dealer's pitching me the cards. I look at them one at a time. As soon as she pitches me card number 1, I look at it. Okay, Queen of Hearts. I'm saying that inside my head. And then the next card comes, and the second card. I pick that one up, check it. Okay, Queen of Spades. And then what I'll do is with my left hand, then I'll pick them both up at the same time and look at them once again. Queen of Hearts, Queen of Spades. And then I'll look at them for like a second or two and just like visually confirm that that's what it is and that's the suits. And then I'll grab them with my right hand like this and I'll cage them. And I'll just slide them over to the side. Yeah, you can see that. And that's how I hold my cards every time. And then with my left hand, I'll either shuffle chips or I'll just have my left hand sitting there. And until it's my turn, that's the exact posture I'll hold every single time. I'm not going to be doing things like preloading the raise that I'm about to make, or I'm not going to hold my cards like this, indicating that I'm going to fold. Like, these are borderline etiquette issues. So I never do things like that. I never try to give any indication of what I'm doing before it's my turn. So that being said, the next thing we're going to talk about is, okay, it's actually your turn. So you got your cards and you're chilling and you're doing your thing, and now your turn is actually here. So the first thing I would do when it's my turn is I don't act, I don't do anything, I look to my left. And why am I looking to my left? The reason I'm looking to my left is because I'm looking for people doing all that bullshit that I just told you about not to do. People will sit there and they'll have their cards ready to fold. People will also sit there and have a $25 raise, preloaded, ready to slide across the line, just waiting for you to fucking complete your action before they're going to pound this raise in there. So that's why I look to my left. Okay, now that I've looked to my left and I have a pretty good idea of what's happening behind me, or no idea, now all the players that are involved, small blind, big blind, whoever limped in, I'm going to just kind of take a mental note of how much money they have. I'm going to look at each and every stack just real quickly. And if I have to, I will stand up at the table and look at somebody's stack, because people are always holding their hands in front of her. I'll even ask people, hey man, how much can you move your hands? And people sometimes get insulted by it, but I want to know, like, how much chips do these people have? Like, a lot of times people have like $38 and they hold their hands over it because they're kind of like embarrassed that that's all the money they have. I don't know. I'm just speculating, but I want to know. So if I'm sitting there considering like making some light raise on the button and some dude does have $37, like, might not be a good time to make a light raise and try to punish a bunch of limpers, because this guy might just very well just be like, oh, fuck it, I'm all in, and then he pushes all in. So after you've taken a look around at the table and you determine how much money everybody has, and I mean, all this, it sounds like a lot, but it only takes 5 or 10 seconds to do all that. Tops. Like, I can do it much quicker than that, because like as the action's getting to me, I'm kind of like already looking at chip stacks of people involved anyway. There's ways you can save time, so just always be attentive, always know how much money everyone has, things like that. The next thing that we're going to get into is the types of players that you're going to encounter at these 1-2 games. So if you're doing your thing and you're paying attention and you're watching hands and you're seeing showdowns and you're seeing what these people show up with, you should certainly be able to put them into some categories. So the first category, and this is the most common player you're going to find at 1-2, and I'm sure you've read about or heard about these types of players before, but it's your garden variety loose passive, otherwise known as a call station. These players will play way too many hands. They will limp and call raises and just check call, check call, check call. I would almost venture to say that they are unbluffable. So just real quick, don't bluff these guys. They are the calling stations. They are ATMs of the poker world, and they readily dispense money, but you need to make a hand to make money from this type of player. So that being said, that's your garden variety loose passive. Super duper duper loose with their hand selection. Like, you might even ask yourself, like, what the fuck does this guy even fold? Like, he's showing up with 9-3 offsuit and calling 3 bombs with a pair of 9s. Like, yep, that's how they play. So the next type of player that we're going to talk about is your garden variety nit, and otherwise known as like a tight passive player. This player can seem a lot like a loose passive player, just at first glance, because they kind of play similar. They're limping and calling and checking and calling and doing like general passive things like that. But the difference between a nit and like a loose passive is the nit's going to play a lot less hands, and given a short sample, a nit could be confused with a loose passive. But the difference that you're going to see if you're paying attention at the table is the nit is going to show down like really good hands, whereas the loose passive is going to be in there with just some bullshit. So the nit's going to show up where he like limp called with pocket 10s or like ace queen or something, and like, so that's how you identify the tight passive player. The reason why it's important to identify this type of player is because if you're playing the range that we talked about before and you're raising late position and this guy limp calls you and he's a nit, you're going to have to know, like, going into this hand, that like your ace jack offsuit on the button is probably behind what this guy limped and called you with. Like, he probably has a better hand than you do. So like, if you're paying attention and you're in front of everything, you already know this, and you're going to be cautious after the flop because you know what you're up against. And the last player type that we're going to talk about, and there's 2 types of these, is your loose aggressive lag. There can be really shitty lags and really good lags, and I'll explain the difference. Shitty lag is someone who just has no rhyme or reason to what they're doing. They're just sitting down and it's balls to the wall for however long the money lasts. I mean, sometimes they go on a tear and wipe the whole table out, but most of the time they're just pumping the table full of chips, and they're just reckless aggression, just every hand, balls to the wall. They want to win every single pot at all costs. So that is your shitty lag. Now, lags aren't very common at 1-2, but Fridays, Saturday nights, like people get drunk and they're gonna play like a shitty lag. So your other type of lag is your good lag. And if you are unlucky enough to find yourself at a table with a good, solid lag, they can literally make your life a living hell. They are going to put you to the test in a bunch of spots. They're just going to put you in gross spots. They're really a handful to play against, and they're very tough to play against. So when I was coming up in 1-2 and trying to find my way, if I got seated at a table with somebody that I consider to be a good lag, I would just table change. I don't want to put myself in a position to get run over or get, put to the test every hand. I want to play against someone that is, I want to play against a table that's easier than having like some good lag, just punishing everyone every hand. So I definitely try to avoid those players if at all possible. But if you just got to play with them, sometimes you just got to man up and just start 4-betting them. But anyways, just avoid them for now. All right, so we talked about player types, and now the videos upcoming. If you like the series so far, the videos that I'm going to do in the future, we're going to talk about like what to actually call raises with. If we're not the ones raising, we're going to talk about that range, and then we're also going to talk about table image, and then we're going to spend some time on talking about the mental game, because that's a pretty important aspect of this whole poker game. So if you like what you see so far, you might want to consider subscribing to my channel. So 6 p.m. tomorrow, we're going to have another video, guys. I hope you like the series so far. Don't forget to comment, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. I definitely like some feedback from you. So until next time, take it easy, guys. See you in the next video tomorrow.